All right. We played the beta of the Modern Warfare 2 2022, mind you, not 2019. I think it's time that we take a little more of a relaxing tone here. We're so used to running around, running and gunning with our guns that I think wanted to kind of just chill out, do a little fireside chat, if you will, and kind of talk about our reactions of the latest offering of the Call of Duty franchise. I mean, this releases October 28th. We've gotten our feet wet with the beta. I mean, obviously, it's only been very limited with the maps and the weapons and stuff. Well, let me start out like, Ralph and I are here. We've been playing now for what, Ralph, since 2019?
Since 2019, yeah, May of 2019.
Wow, May of 2019. So that was Season 3 of Modern Warfare 2019 is when we started playing together. Now, Ralph and I have known each other for a number of years. I met him professionally in 2011, and we worked together managing teams, and found that we both enjoyed doing the games and started playing the games. And I think we make a pretty darn good squad, if you do ask me. But we both have our strengths that we bring to the team. I think sometimes I'm a little bit too rambunctious of a run and gunner, but I think we both.
I'm often too conservative. So.
Right, but we both rack up the kills. And what's nice is I think that we do complement each other. And when Jason joins us, who's Shadowstorm, I think the performance that I've seen us do in the beta has been pretty on par with where we're at in our professional career, if you will, for Modern Warfare.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think we all kind of come at it from a different angle, but we all know how to work together at this point and play off of each other really well.
So tell me, now that you've had a chance, Ralph, to get your feet into the beta for, the new Modern Warfare 2, what are your brief impressions? What do you think, just shooting from the hip?
And this definitely feels very much in the vein of the original Modern Warfare, not the original Modern Warfare, but the 2019 Modern Warfare. It almost feels like we, had a short break there with Cold War and Vanguard, and now we're right back in it. You can tell the strengths of having the more modern weapons are there, and they're very much focused on the maps, which I think have really taken this game to a different level than even the original Modern Warfare was at.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, I've been reading and listening to a lot of folks' reactions across YouTube, and it seems like the one thing that keeps coming up are folks are saying this is a little bit more of a slower paced Call of Duty. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of chaos and
some franticness going on. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I didn't recognize it until we were playing the other night. I'm like, this really is more tactical. In playing Modern Warfare and even playing Black Ops, Cold War, and Vanguard, those just seem just utter all-out chaos. And maybe it's part of the era. World War II is, we were just out of control, killing everybody. But do you feel that playing the beta so far, does it feel more paced and slower to you?
I think that the way that they've structured some of the maps kind of forces you to go a little bit slower and to think a little more strategically, because otherwise, I mean, I think we've seen like on Farmhouse where if you just storm right into the kill house in the middle of Farmhouse, you're going to get killed.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Right? And so you do that a couple times and you're like, oh, I shouldn't do that anymore. I got to be more tactical. I got to be more strategic. I'm thinking about what corners am I going to hide around? How am I going to get to the other person before they can get to me? And the maps in Vanguard and other ones that we've seen previously weren't structured that way. They were basically a big circle that you could just keep running around and just killing people as long as you got the jump on them. I really feel that this game has forced you to think differently and slow down a little bit, look around your corners, find an alternative route to kind of get where you want to get to. And they also have a lot of good choke points where it's like, okay, if you go in there, you better know what you're doing, or you better have your flashbang ready, or things like that, because you are going to go into the meat grinder if you're not careful.
Yeah, one thing I think is pretty evident when you look at least the maps that were presented us in the beta. I mean, there are no real places to hide. I mean, everywhere. I mean, look at I forget the name of the map. That's the city that we all like.
The Mercado
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah, I mean, think about that map for a second. And when you're running through there, and it doesn't matter if you're playing Domination or Team Deathmatch, when you run through there, you make a choice. I'm going this path. There are at least one or two places where someone's going to come up. If you don't watch have your head on a swivel, someone's going to come up and get you. I just feel like there's really no way to just be patient and keep going down your linear path. You almost have to be bobbing and weaving.
Correct. And what I also like, we haven't seen a ton of this yet because, it's not really unlocked a whole lot, but there's not a ton of places for snipers to set up either. Like the places where a sniper can set up are very open, and it's very easy to see them if they are kind of up there trying to pick people off, as compared to like, oh, I'm up in the hills, and you just can't see where I'm at because there's all these layers of hills and kind of things. Like this is really like, if you're gonna be a sniper or you want to be a camper, you're probably going to pay for it very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a little bit about the maps. I mean, how do you like the feel of the handling of both the operators and the guns in this game?
The operators to me are in the first person. I think it's great. I feel like it's a very smooth and it's very quick, which I like a lot. I did try to play the third person a little bit, and that felt super slow. And I don't know if that's just the difference between first person and third person in the same game that we're not used to, or if they really just need to work on that a little bit. But in terms of the characters, I mean, those are just skins. It doesn't do a ton for me having different characters. The weapons, though, they feel very different. They've done a really good job of the idea that you can shoot super quickly with some, and that they feel super quick on your system. Like you can actually feel that both in the haptics as well as on the screen. And it feels like every weapon is just a little bit different. Now, granted, we don't have every single thing unlocked, and we don't have the 1,000 of different weapons that COD is used to yet. And so maybe we will get to that point where it's like, a lot of these feel the same. But as of right now, the different weapons that we have at our disposal feel very different to me.
Yeah, I am jazzed with, and we kind of knew this when we bought the PS5s for those of you that are playing on the PlayStation. The haptics that they build into these controllers are amazing, and I think I got my first exposure playing Deathloop. Deathloop was real good with haptics, and then there was a couple other games that are out there now. But this one it really does feel like when you've got a heavy armament in your hands. I mean, you feel like it's heavy. The trigger's thicker. Yeah, so I really enjoy the weapons. The weapons feel great. The operators, I think it's just meh. Really, it's an operator as an operator. I mean, it doesn't really feel any different to me. I mean, I do think the responsiveness is there. I mean, when it's not right? When you play a game and it's just hokey and janky. I mean, you can tell. So far, I feel this feels like a Call of Duty game. I feel like I have the controls are responsive. I do wish, and I think this is just a matter of the loadouts, that I wish, my guy was faster. I wish he could run faster.
But I think that's actually nice that they have compensated truly compensated your speed based on the weapons that you have. Because I do feel like I move faster when I have my SMG equipped as compared to when I have my LMG equipped. And it feels like there was never a huge difference in some of the previous games, even though it said, run speed will decrease if you have this filter on or that, weapon on. But here it really does feel like, oh man, I am significantly slower if I'm carrying a heavy weapon, which is how it really should be. Like that should be one of the drawbacks from hauling around a very powerful LMG with you.
As far as the operator, one of the things that I was reading where people were commenting about the fact that, the slide cancel has been removed, so you have to do a full slide now. And there's, some of the other mechanics that people have grown used to in the Call of Duty games. I don't know. From my perspective, that didn't bother me so much as the fact that this dolphin dive being back in the game, sometimes it's actually unintentional. I mean, I'll do a dolphin dive. I don't mean to do one, but I mean, it just feels like the jumping and the out of control bunny hopping and the dolphin diving, it's just out of control, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think what is nice about it is that I've killed a lot of people trying to execute a dolphin dive. Like, they will literally just slide right into my gun, and then I shoot them in the face. And I'm like, if that's really how you want to play, that's fine. I think that people are not using it judiciously. To me, without the slide cancel, you are committed to whatever action you are doing. And I think that's really how it should be. Like, if you're going to come in and hope to get the jump on me because you're below me, you shouldn't be sitting there being able to just suddenly cancel out of it and pop up and shoot me. You should have to execute that move and then come at me. And I agree, the jumping around has always been an issue, and I don't know that there's any way for them to deal with that. But we just have to think about where we're shooting, knowing that there are players out there like that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, in just playing the beta, I'm starting to train myself to aim higher because when these guys
Yes,
come jumping in, I'm getting great headshots off them. So it's actually
exactly,
working out
exactly.
great. So talking a little bit more about the guns in the game, we've had limited exposure in the beta just because of the limited unlocked weapons. But I guess from your impressions in playing the game, what do you think of the new Gunsmith 2.0?
So the new Gunsmith is nice in the sense that it does a really great job of showing you not just kind of what your levels are going to be at, but really making you think about like, okay, here are my pros and my cons. We haven't had a ton of options open to us yet, so it doesn't feel like overkill in terms of the amount of attachments that I could have, which is nice. I also like that right now they are limiting us, so you can't just load up your entire weapon. That you really got to stick to those 5 slots that you have, which they've done in some games and not done in other games. But I do like it here. Haven't played a whole lot with the ability to change out the core of it and create a new weapon, and that's something I think it's going to take a lot of getting used to for us. But maybe that is a way to kind of also cut down on the number of weapons that you have overall, so that you can really craft the weapon that's best for you.
There's elements of the gunsmith that I like. I really enjoy the diving down, looking at the different pieces. I feel like you get a little bit more of a view of them and understanding of them. I'm finding the text in the left-hand column of the pros and cons a little difficult to read, and I don't know, there's something
Yes.
going on my user interface that I feel like things are getting overlaid, and I think that's just a bug that they got to work out. But I
Yep.
do like the dive down of the pieces and parts. But if I think about Modern Warfare 2019, and I think about Vanguard, and I think about Black Ops Cold War. Out of all of those, I mean, I still enjoy the Modern Warfare 2019 loadout, but I do like elements of this over that. I think no matter what you talk about, I think this is still better than what we saw in Vanguard. I did not like Vanguard at all for the loadouts.
No, no. Vanguard, they tried to make it almost too complicated, and it just wasn't fitting right with the type of gameplay that we wanted to do. This allows me to go in, make some quick modifications. If I really want to sit down and craft a new weapon, I can do that as well. But I don't feel like I have to at all times. So I think this gunsmith is definitely a step up over Vanguard. I think it's also just going to take some getting used to, right? Like every time we see a new gunsmith, we're like, oh God, why did they change the gunsmith? But then, we get used to it and we figure it out. So I feel like it's going to be that for this as well.
What I like about the gunsmith, it reminds me of earlier Modern Warfare games where you could better understand when you added a new attachment or you went up a level in attachment, the meters there seem to be easier to understand or interpret, whereas the Modern Warfare 2019 game, you would add an attachment, you could barely tell the bar for,
Yeah, it wouldn't move very much. Yeah.
it's like, what am I doing here? So at least this one feels like when you do things, I can actually tell. The pros and cons, when you can read them, seem to be pretty good, but I think they need to do some tweaking on some of these attachments because it just feels like there's just not enough of a difference when I add the next level of a barrel versus the one that I just had on there. They're still giving me aim down speed problems. They're still giving, and maybe that's the case in real life, but I think they need to do a little bit more tweaking on some of the weaponry.
And again, that could also be a beta issue. It could be that they threw some stuff in there and they're still going to tweak them, and they'll be much more noticeable in terms of good and bad or better and best kind of thing once we get into the actual game.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. As of right now, I'm actually running with very minimal attachments on a lot of my guns just because a lot of them have some really, really bad negatives to them that are outweighing the positives for me.
That might be a great future fireside chat to talk about our loadouts and what we're doing, what we're running with, and how we're combating like swim and vertical climb and stuff on the guns. I'd love for us to
Yes.
profile that in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's revisit the maps a little bit. We talked a little bit about what we were liking about the maps. You had expressed your liking of the Mercado map.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that and what else do you like about some of the other maps?
So Mercado by far is my favorite map because it's got a ton of like side alleys, and it's got, once you understand kind of its structure, there are places where you can, get a higher ground view, but if you're up there too long, you're going to, be a sitting duck. So it really feels like this is a real lived in kind of map as compared to just being constructed for the purposes of death, which is what a lot of the other maps, like I think of Shipyard a lot when I think about maps. And I'm like, okay, Shipyard is basically a circle with a cross in the middle that, there's not a whole lot of thinking to it. And it can be a lot of fun if you're really just going out for death, but it doesn't allow you to be tactical and strategic. Whereas, when I'm looking at like the Mercado map or even the hotel map, it feels like, okay, this could be a real place. This is how things would actually be constructed in those places. And because of that kind of real feel, it does cause you to slow down and make some different or better decisions with your gameplay. So those two maps, I mean, I know we haven't seen a ton of maps. Those two maps to me are my favorite. There's no safe place, so you got to keep moving, kind of feel to it, as well as the fact that it just, again, it feels a lot more real than a lot of maps we've seen out of Call of Duty in the past.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. We talked about this the other night with Jason. I love the Mercado map too, and especially now that I understand it and I remember it. I mean, when we first got it infuriated me just because, you walk out there, especially that alley in the middle where B, right down the tunnel where B is, you come out that T. That's a tough area. And that, when you talk about snipers, that's probably a sniper's delight right there, is that long-ass alley there. And I've been shot by, dudes from all the way, it's like, what are they shooting me with? So that can be a tough map. I do like Farm, and I think part of the reason why I like Farm is because I've owned that 3-story building with my shotgun, people coming up and down the stairs. And you can right there, and I don't remember if that's A that you look down at.
Yeah, I think that's A right there.
Yeah, I mean, I like Farm a lot. I like Mercado a lot. The hotel is great for a very good tactical mode. I mean, Team Deathmatch, I hate the hotel playing Team Deathmatch.
I totally agree with that. I mean, to be fair, I usually hate Team Deathmatch anyway. But, yes, I agree. The hotel for Team Deathmatch is not the best. You really do need a farmhouse kind of map for something like Team Deathmatch. But I think if you are doing a search and destroy, or you are doing knockout or something like that, the hotel is excellent for that.
Yeah. It's funny when you think about the hotel that was in Vanguard. Was it Vanguard that had the hotel with the rooftop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you think about that hotel compared to this hotel, they feel very familiar. But for some reason, I think I like this one better. It feels like there's, at least from my perspective, the Vanguard hotel, I was getting nailed from high up, in various places. You think about the bar, you think about the skylights in there. It doesn't feel like there's as much of that going on. I feel like I got a little bit more of a chance playing in this hotel, but I also just like there's really clutch areas where you can do the close quarter combat. But then, if you get in that long atrium where, you got dudes that are up on the catwalk over there, and then you got us on the, I mean, there's some great shit there, but you almost always know that someone's going to throw a grenade at you from there.
Yes. Well, I think what I liked about this hotel versus the one that was in Vanguard is it felt like in Vanguard there were too many places where you could hold, like that bar, right? You could just basically hole up behind that bar and pop out and kill people, and it was really hard to get in there unless you were willing to storm it. Whereas I feel like in this hotel, there are some places that you can hide, but you're not going to be there for very long because, as you said, somebody's going to be up on the catwalk. They're going to be up in that either office or hotel room that's up there, either chucking thermite or just shooting you. And so it encouraged you, like, if you need a brief respite or you're hiding from some gunfire, you can be behind something, but you really got to keep moving. And I think that, to me, keeps the gameplay going, as compared to kind of just like, oh my God, this whole team is holed up in this location and we can't get them out of there.
Yeah, I think, one thing that is striking to me on this game versus other games are how the modes really changed the feel of the maps. Because, I mean, you mentioned Shipyard earlier. Now, Shipyard, it doesn't matter what you're playing. Team Deathmatch, everything felt like Team Deathmatch on Shipyard, right? Same thing with, what was that map, the little Kill House map? That was...
it might have been Kill House. It was...
Or was it Death House or Kill House or something like that? Yeah, same
Das
thing.
House.
Das House. Everything felt like death on that map. But the fact of the matter is like, think about this museum map. It feels different if you're playing Domination or Rescue the Prisoner, or we played Knockout a bunch of times the other night. That map feels great for that kind of a mode. Whereas Team Deathmatch, I don't want to play Museum at all if it's Team Deathmatch.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Like, knockout or search and destroy on museum is ton better than either domination or team deathmatch. It's just
Hmm.
it's not that even that it's too big. It's just like there are too many places in that map, particularly for people to kind of perch up and get you. Whereas again, if you have an objective and you're really playing to the objective, it has a different feel to it.
It's funny. I was playing Domination on that map, on the museum map the other night, and I do like it. I mean, I'm a big fan of Domination. I think we both are. We love that
Yes.
mode a lot. I like it because it's tactical, and you actually have to do something. You have to capture the flag and defend. And I really kind of like that. It gives you purpose. I mean, you're going to still have jerkies, right? They're going to be running and gunning. We see it. We're seeing it in the beta. I mean, that's not going to change. But for the people, if you get in a match with people who know how to play that game and want to play it correctly, it can be fun. And I was playing Domination on the museum the other day, and I really enjoy getting in there. Now, the only problem about that map is it's a hell of a run. When you die
Yes.
and spawn back in, it's a hell of a run to get to where you got to go.
Yeah, and that to me is where if you're playing domination and the flags are spread apart, it can make a lot of sense. If you're playing team deathmatch and everybody's in the middle and you're at the edge, it kind of sucks.
So we talked about the weapons, we talked about the operators and the maps. What do you think about the kill streaks and the loadout options?
It feels like the kill streaks to me are a lot, I don't know if I want to say weaker than in other games, and I'm actually okay with that. It always felt like people would get on kill streaks and they would just constantly be bombarding you with stuff. I mean, I remember specifically, I'm thinking of Das House in Vanguard, where there'd be dogs and then people would be bombing, and then there would be, like, it felt like every 2 seconds somebody was executing a kill streak. And I don't know if, again, if it's a purpose of the tacticalness of the map that it's hard to get on a kill streak now, but it also feels like the options that we have at least open to us in the beta are just not going to totally decimate your team when they're enacted.
So not so much weaker, but throttled.
Throttled, yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, weaker is perhaps the wrong word, but definitely throttled. It feels like it's harder to get them, and when you do execute them, again, they're not quite as, deathly impactful to everybody that's on the map.
It's funny. You gave me a reaction. You mentioned the dogs, and right away, the hair went up. I hated those damn things. I loved when I had
Yes,
them, but I hated when they were out there. And it was true. It,
exactly.
it was chaos. I mean, and I'm hoping that throttling does kind of continue on into the actual release, because right now you maybe might see like two of those going on at a time, and maybe it's just because we don't have all the great players playing right now. But I do feel like it isn't like complete chaos, although I do kind of have a problem with carrying over the growth meter for gaining your kill streaks from one match to the next when you're playing like a knockout or whatever. Now, I guess that's part of the game, right? Chances are you're not killing enough guys to get it in the first match. So second, third, fourth matches, you're going to start seeing more kill streaks. That's probably the point of the game. I don't know, but it just always kind of feels dirty when you get into match three of like
Yeah.
prisoner rescue, and here comes the carpet bomb.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, as far as the loadouts go, the loadouts to me are pretty standard. Not a whole lot of change from previous things. I mean, there's some good old standbys that I'm happy are there, like tracker and things like that. But I didn't see anything that stood out to me like, whoa, this is a really different option for my loadout that is going to make a huge difference in how I play this game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been running with the little mini radar. You throw it on the ground. It
Yes.
doesn't
Yep.
last very long though.
Yeah, and I mean that's like the cameras. Like the camera is an interesting idea, and I've used it a couple times, but I haven't found it to be something that I'm like, wow, it's really helping me to know where people are at. Unless I was able to get a whole bunch of cameras throughout a particular map, and they persisted between rounds. I don't see. Again, interesting idea. Don't really know how it's helping me. Only because again, people are moving through areas too quickly. Like I said, they made the maps in such a way that camping is much harder. So like, oh, campers are always here, so I'm going to put a camera here to know when there's a camper there. It's like that doesn't exist as much, at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, I will be, and I've been paying attention to the duration of these things, and I haven't tried the trophy system yet to see how it compares to the trophy system in the other Modern Warfare. I did a tactical review of the trophy system, and I believe it was a minute that we had it. This doesn't feel like
Yes.
I had the radar for a minute when I throw it. So maybe that's,
No, definitely not. I think you might have it for 30 seconds.
yeah, I mean, and maybe that's by design, or maybe it's just, they're still tweaking that. But I will say, when you go back to the kill streaks, I loaded in the turret for my third tier kill streak, and it's great for domination. If you have enough kills that you can unlock it, and it does last. I mean, I think that thing lasted like 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and it was nice to have. I was in the middle. I'm trying to think of if that's B or C in the museum, but I was in the one room and where you have 3 entry points, and I had the turret guarding one of the entry points, and I was keeping my eye on the other 2, and it was actually very helpful to have that, and I appreciated the duration that I had that for me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
as you said, I think the jury's still out. Who knows if these are nerfed, because of the beta. I mean, there's probably some kind of handles they're putting on some of these things just so it doesn't take all the fun away and people are just locking it all down. So I think there's more to come on those things.
For sure.
Let's shift gears here a little bit, Ralph. We've talked about the beta and our reactions and all that stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the campaign. So as a digital exclusive for pre-ordering the game, folks get access to the full campaign a week early on October 20th. I know the answer to this, but for the sake of our listeners, let me ask you, what is the likelihood you're going to dedicate time to the campaign?
As you are well aware, I am a huge fan of the campaigns in these games. I feel like that to me is where I learn about the characters and the story kind of comes alive for me. And since the story carries over into the multiplayer and eventually into Warzone and things like that, I love knowing what's going on and why they are trying to head a story in a particular direction. So I am psyched the fact that we're going to be able to have access to the campaign a week early. And really focus on that and not have to be like, oh man, multiplayer's out and the campaign is out and Warzone is out and I don't know what to play. I can just focus for a full week on the campaign, really get into it, unlock a whole bunch of both operators as well as weapons as I go through the campaign, and really get a good feel for some of these maps. They'll end up either being multiplayer or eventually incorporated into Warzone 2.0.
Yeah, I know you're big on the lore and the story, and you like to know all that business, and that's awesome because I think you keep me honest because, as we all know, I'm notorious for starting the campaign and not finishing it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I did enjoy I guess I should rephrase that. I enjoyed the start of the Vanguard campaign, but I never got through it. So,
I mean, I have no idea if anybody from COD or Activision or anybody will ever hear this, but if they can find a way to make the campaign multiplayer, I think you'll get a lot more people being willing to play the campaign. And to me, I really feel strongly that if I could go through the campaign with other people or play it like I play multiplayer, which is, hey, I've got an hour, my buddy's got an hour, let's go through this part of the campaign together, whether I've already done it and you haven't, or vice versa, or neither of us have done it. I think that would help people to play the campaign more because everything's more fun when you're playing with somebody else.
That would be nice if you could tag in. We've seen other games, in other licenses where, you could tag in, and if you're not in there, you've got a, AI character with you. I'm trying to think. I think, earlier versions of the Call of Duty franchise, there were couch co-op tag-ins.
Yes. Yeah. And even that, I think, would be a step in the right direction. I mean, you'd figure they'd be able to do online, but...
Well, yeah, and who knows? We both are working in a software business. We know what it takes to write software and deploy it. There's, it's probably in the wish list somewhere for someone to come up with this, but it's probably not a high priority for them. So
probably true because I think more players, unfortunately, are more in your vein than they are in my vein, in the sense that the reason they're buying a first-person shooter is for the multiplayer and the large-scale Warzone type of game as compared to the campaign.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to remember, I believe it's Black Ops Cold War that had the one mission where you're going into it's a hostage situation. It's a house multi-floor
Yes.
house. And that was awesome, dude. And I think
Yes.
we've read and heard people still say and talk about that. That was like the best mission in the game. I really did find that was just thrilling. I mean, you're in there with whatever your squad was, 4 guys, 5 guys, I don't remember.
4 or 5 people, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just out of control. Guys hiding in rooms. It felt like I was watching, an episode of Cops, for God's sake. But it was very good, and I am looking forward to that because I've read that this is going to be pretty breathtaking and thrilling as well. So I'm looking forward to playing the campaign, at least for the first day, and we'll see.
Just for the first day. I love it. Although I think if you could switch in like music like Bad Boys over some of these things, I think more people might play the campaign.
There was a time, I'm trying to think of what game it was. This is years and years ago, and I think this is back on one of the earlier PlayStations, where you could actually put in your own music in the game you were playing, and I had Van Halen going while I was playing the game.
Burn 'em up.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. We haven't had a chance to play Warzone 2 yet, and we've seen the footage. There's a lot of alpha gameplay stuff out there on YouTube and Twitch. Have you seen much of that, Ralph? And if you have, do you have any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have watched a little bit of the Warzone 2.0 play. I can't say I'm not excited about it. I always have a yearning for Warzone to continue to be better and different. What I love of what I'm hearing already is the idea that they are expanding it to include some more AI kind of stuff. And it sounds kind of weird because it's like, well, this is supposed to be just multiplayer. But the idea of like the strongholds where, those are protected by AIs. And if you're willing to go in there and with your squad and clear them out, that you can get a whole lot of awesome loot. Like that's basically the same idea as the golden key card used to be in Warzone, but it takes a lot more and it pushes your team. So I'm really looking forward to the idea that they're thinking about things like that and making it more challenging in ways of interacting with your squad. I'm also super excited about the idea of just there's going to be modes that are a lot more tactical than they are just your standard BR. And you and I both know that we can play BR if we need to play BR, but it's definitely not our favorite. And the idea of having a huge map where we can do missions and kind of work our way up through the ranks doing those missions is what's going to be more attractive to us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anybody who's watched our stuff or been on this journey with us know that one of the primary things we do is we play Warzone. We appreciate that mode or that game. We'll play multiplayer if we have to, but I think this squad has kind of really cut its teeth and grown playing the Warzone game. I'm geeked. I can't wait to get my hands in it. For me, as you said, it's not just about another map and a new system. It is about the Plunder. That's the hopes of what Plunder is going to bring us. And we'll play the BR if we have to, but I'm also interested in the DMZ mode.
Yes.
If that is even remotely close to what they're trying to do as being a competitor to Tarkov. I spoke to you guys offline about this. I mean, this game is something I've wanted to play for a long time, but I'm not a PC player. And so playing Tarkov was not an option for me, but the fact that they plop you down with minimum stuff and it's this huge-ass map and limited guys on it, and it's like a survival game, that really appeals to me.
Yeah, and I think that the DMZ is going to definitely, if it is what they're saying it is, will definitely become a fast favorite for us in any given night, that it can be around where it's not just, Jason said this the other night, it's not just, die, rinse, and come back. That it's really like, okay, we got to really think about what we're doing and where we're going, and do we need a vehicle and things of that nature, so that we can really have an extended gameplay in a Warzone session.
It's funny, where we live here in the Midwest, the temperatures have really changed when fall came in last Thursday, and it's synonymous in my mind with the whole thing, the pumpkin spice latte, football season, and Call of Duty releases. We tend to see Call of Duty come out this time of year, and it almost feels right. We're in the throes of getting ready for it. We know that it's coming up here next month. The beta was awesome. I guess from my perspective, bringing it back to where we're at, I always like to, and I think it's human nature to always compare to what was before. So in my mind, the first thing I want to know is this game worth my dollars? And you and I, we've talked about this, are we going to choke up the money to pay for yet another Modern Warfare Call of Duty game? And it's like, all right, what does this bring to us? Now, we both leaped at it before, we even bought the beta, because I think we both agreed what we were seeing in the reviews and the previews that, this was going to be the game. Now that you've played the beta, Ralph, I have my feeling, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. How does this rank in your mind compared to Vanguard, Black Ops Cold War, and not to want to compare, but let's do it, against Modern Warfare 2019, where you and I first started playing together?
So this beta, again, we've only seen so much of it. We haven't been able to sink our teeth into the campaign. We don't know how it's going to connect to Warzone 2 in a tactical way for us. But I would say that this, to me, feels, beta-wise, to me, it's knocking it out of the park. I've had very little technical issues with this beta as compared to the Vanguard beta, where we were constantly having issues getting in. Kind of the same thing with the Black Ops beta, definite connection issues and things like that. But I think in just even terms of gameplay, I'm much more invested in the multiplayer than I thought I would be. Like, multiplayer is always third on my list. It's always like Warzone, campaign, multiplayer. And I found myself going, hey, I could see myself playing a lot more multiplayer if there's going to be even more maps that are like what we've seen so far once this game actually releases. So to me, I didn't get a chance to play the beta for the original Modern Warfare, so I can't really compare it to that other than, just the multiplayer that I played there. But to me, because of the way that the maps are structured, because of the guns that we've been exposed to and things like that, I would actually put this at the top of my list. It would probably be this, and then I would say probably Cold War, and then original Modern Warfare and Vanguard at the bottom. Even though I really like Vanguard's campaign, everything else about Vanguard was not well done. So
yeah,
that's
I agree.
kind of where I'm at.
I agree. Vanguard, to me, well, I think it's pretty evident in the preview video that I did a week or so ago. I'm geeked about the fact that Infinity Ward is back in the mix here. These guys really got it down. Granted, I dedicated a crazy amount of time to Modern Warfare 2019. Fact of the matter is I really got intimate with that game, and I knew it in and out, and I came to appreciate all the ease of handling and the weaponry and all that about that game. And I was I would say even more than a little, let down when Black Ops Cold War came out. I was like, what the hell is this? It was a different studio, so it had different handling, had different feels, but I rolled with it. And then Vanguard came out, and I felt like it was even more diluted down. I hated the guns in Vanguard. I hated them. I can't say enough about how much I hated them. And then when we tried to bring in...
Did you hate them?
I hated them. And then we tried to bring in some of the Modern Warfare weapons, and it just never really felt right. They didn't feel like they were the same guns in Modern Warfare. So for me, I think it's been clear. I've made it clear. I've voiced my opinion with you guys over the past, and I think in the videos I've done before, Vanguard is like you, my least favorite. Now, when I try to look at the beta, and as you said, you got to take the beta with a grain of salt. We're only seeing 10% of the game, but just in what I've seen of the beta for this game, I think it is a strong contender, as you have alluded to topping Modern Warfare 2019. Don't get me wrong, Modern Warfare is like an old girlfriend. You don't see anymore. It's just like, I have great memories of her. We had good times together. She's comfortable. But the fact of the matter is I don't play Modern Warfare anymore. It's just not loaded on the game, and it does feel antiquated. So I think when the release comes out for Modern Warfare 2 2022, I think it's definitely going to top 2019, but 2019 is going to be a close second. Black Ops Cold War is third for me, and then Vanguard is far, and I'm not going to say it's close to fourth. It's like if I could jam that thing down to 10th, it would be, because I was not happy with Vanguard at all.
Yeah, and I think that Black Ops really tried to take the whole thing in a different direction. And I appreciated what it was trying to do. I felt like just the gameplay wasn't as smooth as what we saw in Modern Warfare. So even though it's like second on my list, and I think it's because that's really where I jumped into a full COD game that I actually hadn't played since Black Ops 2 way back in the day, I can see where the comparison more of this game with the original Modern Warfare is there for you.
Yeah, for sure. I will say this, though. I did enjoy playing Paulina on Vanguard. She was my girl. So.
Like I said, the Vanguard campaign was actually great. It was just super short, and there was actually not enough gameplay. Like there was way too many cutscenes as compared to actual gameplay.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time building the narrative around that, and good for them. I'm trying to think of the one map that you and Jason and I played with the church on it, and then what was that map where the circle keeps moving around? That mode. What is that?
Yeah, shoot, that was one of our favorite modes.
The introduction of that mode is probably the best thing that came out of Vanguard, and I hope we see that come into this game when they release it. You want to talk about tactical, and there was no way to be a camper. I mean, you could be a camper for a minute, but you couldn't stick around. If they bring that mode into this, that was fantastic. But I will say, playing that church map with that mode, that was probably the best time I had, because it was a big map. There was just a lot of chaos. You didn't know where the fighting was coming from, and I felt like I was actually in the wild playing.
Patrol. That was the name of that.
Yes, Patrol.
Yeah, and I think Patrol took Hardpoint and made it so that you weren't just holed up, that you really had to keep your head on a swivel. And I would love to see them bring that into Modern Warfare, especially with the maps that they have. Some of those tight turns and things like that. I think Patrol would be awesome on some of these maps.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what Patrol was, right? It was Hardpoint on wheels, and playing the Hitler map, that was a great map for that.
Nest,
yeah, that was a great map for Patrol. We haven't seen hardly any of the maps that are coming out, and they're talking about when the game releases here for Modern Warfare 2 that there's just going to be a barrage of maps that we're going to play, and so hopefully, we'll see some opportunity there where the modes like Patrol and maybe even other modes we haven't seen yet, because let's face it, Knockout is kind of new. So hopefully we'll see other modes that'll come out that these maps will just be, just perfect for. So let's start wrapping into a closure here. Why don't you give me your favorite thing and your least favorite thing that you like about the beta?
All right. Favorite thing about the beta by far is the maps. I mean, I think we've hammered this to death, but I will say it again. What's really made these last couple of weekends a lot of fun to play is not only discovering and learning these maps, but really feeling like they're a little bit lived in, and that they are meant to force you to keep moving as a player, and to really focus on some of the objectives as compared to just running around and killing people. Least favorite thing, and this might just be a beta thing, is the sound. I think it's definitely gotten better from the first weekend to the second weekend, but the sound in this game needs a little bit of work. It feels like I can't hear guys when they're coming up on me. I can't always discern the difference between my players and somebody else's players. So I think the sound needs a little bit of work. The other thing that I know that we've all kind of commented on, and we'll have to see how this plays out when it actually comes out in a month, is the wall banging. It feels like things are just kind of flying through walls, or you think you're protected from something, and all of a sudden you're blown up without any sort of notice. Feels like something they could tweak and get a little right. I know, right now, we've kind of commented about how what we're playing right now, especially in Warzone, where splash zones don't quite seem to be broad enough. And it seems like they went in the different direction with this game and made them super broad. And so I think they just need to kind of tailor that in a little bit.
Yeah, we were playing the other night, man. It seemed like I couldn't get a break. And I don't know if we were playing with a player who he was either exploiting it or he was a good player, but I was getting wall banged the whole night with this guy. And I agree. And I agree that in some, reality style gaming, there should be some wall banging, because I should be able to shoot through a thin wall. Concrete, not so much. And I was getting shot through concrete. And I agree with you about the audio too. Yesterday we were playing, and I specifically noticed that when I was walking, I was confusing that with somebody coming at me. And to the point where I actually had to stop and say, "Is that me?" Because it is too much alike. And I don't remember in playing any of the other games having that kind of confusion problem with me. I mean, I know that in playing all just the endless hours of Warzone we've played, that there are times sometimes where my feet will sometimes sound like somebody else, but not to this degree where it's almost at the same volume and the same just everything that it sounds like someone's coming at me where I got to stop. And maybe that's part of the real factor. I don't know.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, and I've noticed this recently in Warzone and definitely in this beta, is I love that I can tell in terms of gunfire whether who's shooting is on my team or on somebody else's team. Like there's a distinct difference, so that if I hear somebody shooting, I'm like, okay, I'm approaching a bad guy, or that's one of my guys and he's shooting at somebody. So I actually appreciate that about the sound. That really helps me as a player. But I agree, like the whole footstep thing, either I hear nothing, or as you said, I'm hearing myself like I'm stomping around. And again, I like the idea that I am making noise so that other people can hear me if I'm running around, but it shouldn't confuse me as a player.
Yeah, I do think they're tweaking it. I mean, week over week on the beta, it does feel like it's gotten better. So I think they're working on it. Let's hope they come home on that. As far as my favorite thing, I agree with you. I think I got two ties. I got a tie for favorite and least favorite. My tie for favorite right now are the maps. I agree with you there. The maps really make it for me on this beta. I mean, they are fantastic. They're well done, well thought out. It's obvious to me they didn't phone this one in. I mean, there's been a lot of thought in how they design the maps and how they implemented them. I'm not running into a lot of areas where I'm getting pinched or clipped. I feel like I know that Jason said he had hit a couple areas where he was getting stuck, but I didn't feel like I was getting that at all. The maps are just wonderful for the modes that we're being presented with. But then I think it's a tie for me is I really do like the Gunsmith. Again, I think we both need to see more guns are released and see all the other things that are going to be benefit. We're so kind of closed off into an environment right now where they only want us to work with what they gave us. But I am appreciating the Gunsmith. So those are my two favorite things. As far as least favorite, again, it's a tie. The first thing is the user interface. I got to say, I'm not a fan of this menuing system that they got right now. I'm hoping they clean that up a little bit. I can't tell what's the difference between the first panel with, the modes in there, and then you go down to whatever this other beta thing is, and it's yet another way to get in, and then just feels like things are in places they shouldn't be. I don't know. Hopefully they'll tweak the user interface a little bit. And then the other thing that's a tie for me on the least favorite, and you and I have shared this, and I'm still having a problem with, is I'm having a hard time distinguishing my people from the enemy.
Yeah. I feel like, to me anyway, that's gotten a little bit better in the sense that I'm not seeing the blue dot over an enemy's thing, which we were seeing in some of the other versions of COD. I think the problem is just that it's just not coming up as good. The one thing I do like is that if somebody's coming up behind me and they're on my team, they say something. Now that's actually a feature I like, is that if I hear footsteps behind me and all of a sudden I hear, I got your six, I'm like, cool, that's one of my guys. I don't need to whip around and shoot them. So I do appreciate that they're thinking about that, but I agree that there still is some work that has to happen about, is that a bad guy or not?
Yeah, for sure. Let's wrap this up, Ralph. Give me your rating 1 to 10 on the beta. Now, with the grain of salt that it's a beta, so who knows? This could be a complete piece of shit when it comes out. But just seeing what you played of the beta and the time you've had with it, 1 to 10, 10 being the best. What's your number?
So if you had given me this beta before I had pre-ordered and said, this is your introduction, do you want to order this game? I come in between a solid 7 and an 8 for this beta, in the sense that I feel like, if I was on the fence about purchasing this game, I probably would have purchased it after playing this beta. It's very strong. It's clear they got a little bit of stuff to work on, and you don't really know what the rest of that game is going to look like, or really how the campaign is going to go. But to me, this is somewhere between, 7.5 is probably where I'm going to put it.
Interesting. I mean, it's always hard, right? When you try to rate a beta based on what you think the release is going to be. But we've been playing games for a long time, and I think we've both seen where betas have come in, and they sometimes are completely opposite of the release. I'm trying to think of the game.
Yes.
Was it Black Ops or was it Vanguard, where the beta felt really good, but then when the game came out, we're like, wow, what happened?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think that
remember.
that was Black Ops. Black Ops had a really solid beta. Like I would have given Black Ops beta a 9, and the game probably ended up at like a 5.5 or a 6.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and
So,
then Vanguard, their beta was like at a 2, and their game was like at a 4. So,
four.
like at best, like so. Yeah, I know you'd probably give Vanguard like a 1, but I'm just saying is like I think that to me is the difference. Is I'm always a little careful with a beta, but if I was just to say, would I keep playing just this? Like if they never expanded the beta, would I keep playing just this? Like I said, I'm at a 7.5 or an 8, meaning that I'd revisit it from time to time if it was just this. I'd probably play it heavy for a little bit and then kind of fall off without anything else. But it's solid enough to kind of come back and revisit for a good little bit.
Vanguard just pisses me off. As soon as I get in that game, that the violin, the sad violin, makes me want to punch a baby. I don't know.
That's one of the upcoming modes, baby punching.
But yeah, I think you're not too far off as far as my rating. I think I'm about a 7.5 to an 8 as well, only because I don't think you can give a beta a 10. I just don't, I don't
No.
think you can give it, there's far too many unknowns, far too many things that need to be tweaked. There's bugs and stuff. But I mean, from an execution perspective, I think what saves this game are the new features, the Gunsmith. The maps are fantastic. The modes are what we expect them, and they're playing great. They're, the knockout mode, which is new to us, is fantastic. I don't think there's anything here that's a drawback. I mean, when you look at, like you said, some of the other beta games we've played, you look at them and you're like, what the fuck? There's nothing here really that's bringing me back. I mean, I'm glad I pre-ordered this game. I'm very happy with the graphics and the, all the things we talked about earlier. The operator controls, the gun controls feel great. It's theirs to lose at this point. I mean, everything so far is going in the right direction.
Yeah, the only way this would have gotten like a 9 or higher for me would have been if the modes had truly been a huge departure and super fun. I feel like everything that we've played so far is even though it might be a tweak, it's still very familiar. There's nothing on here, and I will admit I haven't played Invasion yet, and I know that there's ground war and there's going to be water stuff that we haven't played and things like that. So maybe my perspective will change, but this did feel very, very familiar. There wasn't a ton here, even with, Knockout is basically search and destroy, just like Prisoner Rescue and stuff like that. It's all kind of takes on the same vein, and it's very well executed, don't get me wrong, and I like the tacticalness of the maps in those modes, but didn't feel like, oh my God, this is a huge departure in a great way for COD.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, I've reached the bottom of my pumpkin spice latte. My cup has runneth empty.
I thought we were drinking Oktoberfest already.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, well, that's soon. How about you give me your final thoughts as we wait for the release of Modern Warfare 2 2022?
So I am super excited based on what we're seeing in this beta. I'm looking forward to playing a couple more days here and getting through some of these maps. I'm looking forward to trying out Invasion. But I think, as you said, I'm super happy that I pre-ordered based on this beta. This is giving me a lot of hope that, not only will the expanded multiplayer be great, but that what they're looking to do in terms of incorporating it with Warzone 2.0 is going to be really good. I like that they're going to kind of just cut off all the rest and leave that over in Warzone 1.0 and connect this game to 2.0. And again, I'm super excited to play that campaign a week early based on what I'm seeing here. If the gameplay in the campaign is anything like the gameplay we're seeing here in this beta, it's going to be super smooth, it's going to be tactical, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully it's going to give us a lot of excitement as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's kind of like when J.J. Abrams took over the Star Trek franchise. He did the time thing, and he kind of erased everything that happened before. And that's kind of what it feels like here. Modern Warfare 2 is coming at us with, forget what you've seen before. Infinity Ward's back at the helm. We're taking control. We're bringing it back. And that's kind of one of the things that is really jazzing me about, Warzone 2.0 coming out is it's back in the hands of the folks that released the very first Warzone. So I have great expectations and hopes that we're going to be, Ralph, we had some great times in 2019 playing that game. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to us getting back to what I'm considering home. I mean, I'm looking at the map. There's a lot of familiar places there, but there's a lot of new places. So I think that, along with just all the things we talked about, the anticipation of what some new maps are going to be, because, there's going to be some great civilian style maps, lots of buildings to get in and out, lots of jerkies to kill. It's going to be a good time. This waiting period is going to be difficult because now we got to go back, on Monday night and play Warzone.
And we're wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly. There's probably no Plunder in the playlist, so we'll be forced to play Resurgence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, again, looking forward to Warzone 2.0, it will be really interesting to see what modes they're offering. I know that they said that there's going to be Plunder. I'm really hoping DMZ is going to be there upon launch so that gives us, an alternative when Plunder might be off of the playlist. So, I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm also really looking forward to the idea of seeing Modern Warzone 2 as a complete game. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff I know that they talked about in the next event of swimming and aquatic fighting and stuff like that we have not been able to experience yet. And so I'm really interested in see, how they do with that. I love the fact that if I fall into water, I'm not going to die immediately. That makes me super happy. Mm-hmm. I think there's a whole lot to look forward to just with Modern Warfare 2, and then Warzone's going to follow quickly after that.
Yep. Well, this has been fun, man. I really enjoy this chat, and this is kind of different for us. As I said at the top of the hour, it's kind of nice for us to kind of kick back, put our weapons down, sit by the fire here, and just get some of the stuff we've been talking about in game just out and kind of chat a little bit about it and let folks kind of listen to some of our thoughts on things. I look forward to doing this again. I think we should maybe consider, as I said, looking at some of the other things that we've talked about. Maybe it'd be our loadouts next, or we can even talk about the modes or maps, really dive down into what Modern Warfare 2 brings us and really kind of have a bit of a debate conversation about how we feel about some of the things we're presented as the game is released.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Well, thank you, sir. Have yourself a great rest of your day, folks. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Ralph and I bullshit for a little while. I know that our thoughts probably aren't going to change the world, but hopefully maybe it made you think a little bit about the game. And if you're on the fence on whether or not to pick it up, I think based on what we're saying here, I think if you trust us and you trust what we do and you kind of think the way we do, I think it's a safe thing for you to go ahead and pre-order. So, and we're not getting any kickbacks from this. But,
yeah, I was going to say, no kickbacks from Infinity Ward. Grab that Vault Edition. I actually watched Dan's last video and he convinced me to order the Vault Edition. So totally on board with investing some good money in this game. It looks like they've invested their time and done some really great things with it. And it's going to be a lot of fun and well worth the investment.
All right. Well, thanks, Ralph. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Later.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to drop in and spend some time with me. If you haven't already, please take a moment to become a member of the squad by subscribing to this channel. That way you won't miss a thing.